This is the entrance of the west side where water flows in. I built this, well, actually the neighbor here built it. The road used to get washed out because that's where the water ran. He took dirt from here, in our agreement, moved it up to raise the road by 1 foot, and at the same time he built the channel, which is my source of water for. However, last October we had a major deluge of 3 1/4 inches in a day, which is way more. It tore out fence, it tore out posts, and I'm still trying to get the sand out of here. This becomes a great and awesome way for building sand. One of the tricks, when you have water flowing, you tend to create ruts and valleys. So this is a type of dike that is to hold water back enough so sand won't go any lower than this point, and that way we don't wash out the road. But this was washed out last October because of all the rain, and I have a lot of fixing to do. It's very hard to drive tractors and dozers in sand. So this is a mess right now. It's not a good example of the way it's supposed to be, but building an oasis in the desert is all about problems. We will walk down here and we'll see some of the issues in the design. There's 5 ponds on this property. The water initially goes to pond number 3, bypassing the first 2 under ideal conditions. However, it's designed so that there's too much water, there's a narrowing of the gap there, and we don't want an overwhelming of water. So as it hits the narrower channel, water will rise here and actually flow into pond number 1. I'm also trying to grow trees here. That has been, this is for another chapter. It's been very difficult. I planted 9 moringa trees. Currently, there might be only 1 left. I may have accidentally killed one just this morning because the winds from last night blew the cages down. There are no trees alive, most of them. But while putting the cage back on one of the 2 living trees, I may have broke it off at the ground level or just below the ground. Moringa trees are meant for growing in Morocco, and they're not so good with our very high alkaline soil. So I have a watering system here that has acid added to it, vinegar, to help them survive. Okay, continuing. Along with this curve is where water might tend to back up and flow into here. The metal there I acquired for some project that's yet to happen. Got a good deal on it. This channel needs to be cleared out occasionally. Another big problem is weeds love to grow where there's water. The whole idea here is to get water to stand still long enough to soak in. Getting water to soak in, watch out for the holes and ants. Wild place. Here is part of the dike for pond number 1. And on the other side is another dike to help keep it from flowing over into the neighbors. All this water used to flow into the neighbors or down the road. But I put up the dike to keep the water from flowing there. Some of the neighbors appreciate that. The dike pond number 1 continues up and around in that direction. We'll look at it. This funny thing, when we get rain here, it's not just water flows down here. Remember all those weeds? There's sticks, there's trash, there's grass. It's more like a slurry. That comes down in here. I love that slurry because I can capture it, compost it, and it becomes some of the much needed soil in the future. But that slurry of organic matter also plugs up all kinds of things farther down. The water also brings lots of sand. You already saw some of that. I do not want sand accumulating just anywhere because it's hard to get back out. Sand likes to get into ponds, raises the level. I want the sand to accumulate where it's easy to dig it out again later. So this is to send it out into an accumulation zone. The purpose of these blocks is to kind of slow down the water, get it to start turning to the south and protecting this from washing out. Water, when that's been full, it's 2 feet high, you cannot stand in water flowing that's 2 feet deep. It'll knock you down and it'll dig things out. Incredible. So the water swirls around in this zone primarily for sand to slow down. When the water slows down and sand drops out. This is a floating filter, and its entire job is to catch the organic matter, the weeds, the grass, the dead bugs, everything, so that we then have purer water. Still incredibly dirty, but this is the kind of stuff that's in the filter. I had to repair it yesterday. This is another basin, second basin it comes into. Again, for some more sand, some more silt. It will not go up much farther than about there. Flows on down. I'm going to have another fence type filter across here because it can take minutes for this to be completely filled up. It's smaller than other stuff. This will fill up all the way up here with stuff that will completely block the water, and we're not getting anything through the little gate here. I believe there's 10 pipes through there. Eventually I'll once again have a float out there so that when pond number 3 is full, I have a latch that just lets go of this and it drops down the gate. Hopefully this won't do exactly that because it's plugged up with stuff. By the way, the best of plans by engineers don't always work. You've got to know that if you're ever building an oasis. Plans fail. So there's where the water comes out. And on the other side of this berm of dirt is where I want the water to be. So why do I have the berm of dirt? Remember I said earlier, I want water to stand somewhere. And that's so trees will grow. I want the water to snake around this whole property so that all these trees and bushes get some water. There'll be basins to catch more water at different places so that it'll soak in and help the trees for a full year. We can go well over a year without any rain. I've seen that happen, and I've dug a foot down after 13 months of no rain, and the ground underneath was still moist. That's the whole goal here. The water first flows. There's the bridge to Terabithia. Special person named that. Yeah. I'm gonna have a building here. I hope my other employee is still alive. She's gone.
Probably went inside.
This is a channel for the water to flow past its destination. And there's low spots here, and there's low spots in the future that are going to hold water. See if you can zoom in on the trees out there, the bushes that don't get annual water. These are a heck of a lot greener. You can just see right there a bush that gets water and bushes that don't. There's a little bit of green one there because there's another canal that passes by over there. There's probably more square footage of canal and waterways than there is of ponds.
So I just have a question.
Yes.
You have all this water out here. What's wildlife like on here?
Well, they love it here. There's the danger of burrowing animals to get drowned out. The biggest enemy by far, other than maybe humans, is ground squirrels. Their favorite thing is digging holes through dikes. No matter how much I compact the dikes, they're not going to be as hard as the caliche. What is caliche? It's about a millennia short of becoming limestone. Incredibly hard dirt that doesn't want to let water through. It can have water soak on it for a week. Hit it with a chisel and you might knock off a 1/4 inch and you're already hitting dry caliche. So the ground squirrel just love things like this to build their homes. Then when it rains, their tunnels blow out in an instant and I have flooding. If I'd known about them, I'm not sure I'd have started this project. Once we get over here, we kind of reach the edge of this dike. Levee is probably the right word. And the water flows out in multiple directions here.
What's the large tower?
That is a water tower used for watering the trees. Even though ground can be wet, when I have brand new trees, they need getting extra water for 2 years or so. Below the water tower is the 300-gallon tank. I have timers and valves. More than I ever thought was necessary, but for like 8 minutes, water flows up into the tank and through the lines. But after 8 minutes, there's enough water in the tank that it can then start flowing back out through, well, you see them curled up over there, the black hoses. I got them out of the way to do some dozing in this area. I'll put them back this evening. That is a water tower. It's actually 2 layers there. The true water tank is inside the white tank. The purpose of the white tank is to keep the sun off the inner tank. Otherwise, water can get at 180 degrees and that'll kill my trees. It's not fun living in the desert. Watch out for the wires here. I've got a tangle of wires, which actually has come in kind of handy. It's captured at least one trespasser who got his shoe tangled up in a barbed wire, and he left his shoe behind because he was snooping around at night. Accident adventure. So the water flows down through the lowest spots over here. The true lowest place inside another page. And that's where I bring a green hose when there's water here, suck it out of here with a pump that pumps the water 250 feet over to my 50,000 gallon water tank there in the camouflage. That's where the water ultimately comes from. I get a lot of water soak into the ground. That's probably where 90% of the water ends up. When this is full, it's like 1.6 million gallons of water. That holds only 50,000. But that's what I use then to water trees during the rest of the year.
How does water get from your 50,000 gallon tank to the 300 gallon tank?
Excellent question. And that's always in progress. Right now, I drive a water trailer once a week to refill it. But I have just received new water tubing that I'm going to let it. A tubing that's just probably this same size, maybe a little bigger, and just gravity flow. There's going to be two water coming into a buried tank here. When it gets full, a valve will shut it off, and then another pump will kick in to empty the 50-gallon tank to put another day's worth in there. It's slow. It doesn't need strong tubing because it's very low pressure.
So how much water is used a day?
That depends on how many live trees I have. 30 gallons a day was back when I had all the trees living.
Okay.
Most have died. I've lost all this. Thank you. I've lost trees this year due to ground squirrels. Hiring a guy to take care of the trees while I was gone for a week. That's part of how they died. Ground squirrels, friends, grasshoppers, and heat. There are many alternate things out here beyond an oasis. This is also going to be a recreation area. There's going to be like a bonfire pit with logs around it here. The gates are actually going to be used to create a blind because there have been some nice bright lights out here, but it has, my neighbors informed me that they're too bright shining in through their windows, so the gates are going to be put up with awning fabric on top to keep them from having to look at it. One neighbor put up a 4x8 piece of wood on his fence. So along with preventing them from being blinded, there's going to be like 100 feet of fence here, and the top of the fence is going to be up like 7 feet, and the bottom is probably going to be 3 feet off the ground because it helps block the wind. Blocks light from going that way, keeps eyesight from going this way. There are people who like to come and romp around at night. I also have a racetrack here for kids with go-karts and four-wheelers. Right now I have an employee dragging it to make it a little more obvious where the track is and knock down the dead grass as a fire break.
What's a fire break?
Well, people know about forest fires and they know about prairie fires. Well, here in the desert, things can get so incredibly dry and it can get so incredibly windy that fire is a major danger here too. So being able to provide myself 5 feet of...
It's following me!
These are lovely creatures. They're really sweet. If you ever ride a motorcycle and get one in your teeth, you'll know they're sweet. It's actually on your shoe right
No,
now.
it's not.
Yes, it is. I will show you. Afraid of bees. They're really nice. You can just pick them up, take them where you want them to go. There's a beehive living in something I built for rabbits. Bees decided
To bee or to rabbit? That is the question.
Right now, actually, my drip system is being upgraded for water in trees. So it's all the parts have been taken down.
What's this?
This is water from the tank that has fertilizer, vitamin B meant for helping plants grow. Super Thrive
Vinegar?
is a popular vinegar to help break down the soil here. Has the same pH as soda. This is a unique stuff on planet Earth called the Casagrande soil type. You can look it up. It's famous for its extreme high calcium content and pH level.
Does that mean it's more of a base or more of an acid?
More of a base.
Thank you.
So I add acid to the water, which is a temporary solution. I also put sulfur down around it because in time the water in sulfur turns into sulfuric acid, which is a better long-term way of breaking down the high pH. Another thing the whole area needs for many reasons is just plain compost, organic matter, because that also lowers the pH from basic towards acid. The stuff that naturally grows here, of course, can handle it. Almost everything that grows out here has thorns, and that's one thing I do not want here. This is one of the few plants that doesn't.
You have majority of these on this property though, don't you?
Yes, creosote bushes. They're really beautiful, where they're normally maybe 2.5 feet tall. I have some that are 7 feet tall because of getting the water. They make a great visual barrier, wind barrier. But I want other kinds of trees. In the plant world, you might want to compare creosote bushes to sharks, because they're very vicious beasts. They kill other plants.
So why build a tree close to these bushes?
That is about the limit. There have been many times I've had to pull some of these out because they were too close. The more I water this, the more the roots are going to come here. When creosote bush roots find another plant roots that it knows isn't itself, it will emit a gas that will poison the other roots. This is even a plant that'll kill its own offsprings in competition for the rare thing called water around here.
Do you think that if there were more water here, if we got rain more often, it'd be less likely to kill surrounding plants?
Yes, it would be able to go other directions. Like this is drawn this direction because there's hundreds of little feeler roots that go out in all directions, and it's looking for water. As soon as it finds an area with more water, it's going to start launching out its army of roots looking for water.
That's not a plant, is it? Why are you watering there?
That is a tube that goes down 1 foot because water that reaches the top around here spreads out all kinds of directions, but there aren't many roots here. And that's because it gets so doggone hot here that the top foot of roots will die off. We're talking about the root hairs, smaller than a human hair, that is what actually absorbs the water. They can't survive up at this hot zone where most of the water is going to be. So we had tubes that take the water down. I actually pound a stake down there about 3 feet, so there's a cavity. And when this runs, it goes down into the pipe, a foot down for protection, and then fill up an area there. That way the tree roots are also inspired to go deeper. There's multiple types of trees I've been trying to grow here. There's acacias, carob, argan, not to be confused with argon, the gas, stuff like that. Right now, I'm showing you my oldest trees that I have planted. These are acacias. I planted them at the same time. At the end of the first year and a half, this one was probably this tall. That one was so short that I figured it was just a runt tree, so I gave up on it. I didn't even water it all. It went a year without me adding any water. Then come some heavy rains, and rainwater is so much better than anything else. Fresh rainwater is better than rainwater that's stored. There's a reason for that, of dissolved nitrogen. Suddenly this thing took off, and I have been watering it since, but it has caught up nearly to this one. They're probably like 3 years old now.
They look good.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of them. I'll be very heartbroken if they die. And I've kind of been learning that I don't want to get too emotionally tied to trees. That's something I could very much love deeply for my trees.
You know, every now and then, I think you might like to hear something from us. Nice, easy. But there's just one thing. You see, we never, ever do nothing. Nice, easy. We always do it nice and rough. But we're going to take the beginning of this song and do it easy. But then we're going to do the finish rough. It's the way we do Proud Mary. And we're rolling, ooh, rolling, ooh, rolling on the river. Listen to the story. Left a good